Wow. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming out here. This is great. You know, tell you how I'd like to spend our time. I want to talk a little bit about the lessons learned from Shark Tank and Dragon's Den, because there's some amazing elements to what that show has become all around the world, not just in Canada and the United States, but in Britain and other countries. I've seen thousands of pitches, met hundreds and hundreds of entrepreneurs. But there's certain things that I want to share with you about this journey of over a decade that you can take from it and use for the rest of your life. Because think about what is going on when people get so attracted to that show. All these millions of people that watch it around the world, and producers are trying to figure out what it is about it. What is it about Shark Tank or Dragon's Den that is so appealing? People try over and over again to try and emulate with different knockoffs. There's 14 different shows trying to knock it off now. What are you watching when you watch Shark Tank? You're watching the pursuit of freedom. That's what it is. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? It's not about the greed of money. It's the pursuit of personal freedom so that you can find something you're passionate about, pursue it. If it's successful, it provides you and your family freedom for the rest of your life. That is the essence of entrepreneurship, and a very important element that we have to bring back to Canada. That's absolutely crucial, because I'll tell you why I'm here today. You know, I've been very fortunate, and this country's given me so much, and it should do the same for you. Because when I was coming up at your age and I graduated, the economy was booming. Canada was really competitive. Natural resources were in demand all around the world, and we had them. Our taxes were low, the economy was growing. I had 5 job offers when I got out of undergrad, and 10 when I graduated out of business school. Picking and choosing. You don't find that anymore. And I'll tell you what's motivated me to do this, because when you meet someone that comes out and says they want to get into politics, that's never been a politician before, you got to understand why they're doing that. You have to understand the motivation in anywhere in life that matters. So let's talk about that. Here's the reasons. I've been teaching lately. My mother used to say to me, if you get to be successful, never brag about money, it's bad karma, but you got to give back. I give to charities, yes, but I do something else too. If you want to pursue the life of entrepreneurship, it is a sacrifice. It's a sacrifice of your time while you're young to give you a lot of freedom when you're older. That is what it is, but it is a sacrifice. This is not a 9-to-5 gig. You're going to work your ass off because you're competing with people all around the world. You won't be making a lot of picnics on Saturday or Sunday because you're going to be working 18 hours every day. But it's important not to celebrate success, but when I teach these classes now, as I do all across the country, I talk about the mistakes I made, because what I'm trying to do is impart wisdom into those that are going to take that journey so they avoid those mistakes and make their path easier, because it's hard enough to be an entrepreneur. So I teach engineers primarily, graduating cohorts of engineers. Waterloo, McGill, Toronto, MIT, Notre Dame. And what I found in the last 2 years is really disturbing me. Hear me on this, okay? These are evening classes usually, 6 to 9 o'clock. You've probably attended stuff like this. Sometimes the cohorts are huge, 600 people. And about a third of the class generally wants to pursue a life of entrepreneurship. They have an idea, they have a technology, they have a deal, they want to do something. And we go out for beer afterwards. There's always a pub nearby somewhere, we break out. And when I'm teaching in Canada, this happens to me. Hey Kevin, thanks for the class, really great, but look, you know the guys at Apple. Can you introduce me? How about Facebook? How about Snap? How about Uber? You know those guys, you invest with them. What about TA Associates? You're an investor with them. What about Dallas? You know Cuban, you're doing deals with him. Why can't you do an introduction for me? And I say to them, wait a second. You're just about to graduate in chemical, electrical, mechanical, or robotics. Why don't you start your company right here at home? I'll help you get financed. Why don't you grow it in Canada? Why don't you do your piece? Grow the economy, hire people, build a business. Here's what they say. I don't want to get paid in dollarettes. I want the real thing. I want dollars. I don't want to pay 53.8% tax. I can't build a team in Canada. Help me get financed in the States, and I swear to you, when I sell the business, I'll come back and buy a cottage. I'll come back in the summer. What the hell is that? What's going on? We should all be asking ourselves that. What has changed about Canada that our best and brightest, you, don't want to stay here? What is that? The whole concept of government is to provide an environment. They don't create any jobs. Government doesn't create jobs. It creates an environment where you can plant your seed and grow a business, grow your family, pursue your dreams. That's the essence of what Canada is for all people. I'm an Irish-Lebanese immigrant. My parents came over here on a boat through Halifax. They met, fell in love, started a family, pursued entrepreneurship. They were involved in the clothing business in a company called Kitty's Togs. The sign is still on Jean Talon in Montreal. The whole family lived off that business. That was the dream of Canada in the 50s and 60s. And it should always be the dream of Canada because we're an inclusive society. That's what we are. We don't care what your race, religion is. We don't care what you wear. But if you want to pursue your family dream or a business or work in Canada, that's what it's all about. What's changed? What's happened? Going back to that concept of a rich environment to support an economy. Today that's all changed because Canada's not competitive anymore. You would have thought, like all of us, the morning you woke up and saw Donald Trump get elected, what a surprise. But he really telegraphed beforehand what he was going to do with the American economy. Lower personal taxes, lower corporate taxes, deregulate it, become more pro-capital, more pro-jobs, pro-energy, pro-manufacturing, pro-America, and he wanted to compete. And that's exactly what he's doing. Now, if I were Trudeau that morning and I woke up, I would have said, whoa, everything's changed. You know, we've got to lower taxes. We've got to compete with America. We have to deregulate. We have to compete on energy. We have to compete on lumber. We have to compete on everything because capital is fungible. It moves all around the world. Instead, he kept swimming up that stream like a salmon lost. More taxes, more personal taxes, more corporate taxes, more regulation, more moratoriums on natural resource development, more carbon tax federally on top of provincial, making Canada today the least competitive jurisdiction in North America. Mexico, the United States, Canada. Highest taxes, more regulated, more carbon tax. Do you think, I mean, get this. Last week, Trudeau went to Texas with Rachel Notley from Alberta, which used to be a great province in this country, until they met her. And you know what they did? They gave a lesson about carbon tax to Texans. I can't even imagine how that went down. You don't go to Texas and talk about carbon tax. Texans don't do carbon tax. They compete. They lower corporate tax, they lower regulations, and they're kicking our heinies in development of oil and gas. By the way, the same day she was down there with Trudeau talking about how proud they were to tax their own country into oblivion with carbon taxes, Shell pulled $12 billion out of Canada. Where did they take it? Texas. That's where it's going, where they compete. That matters a lot. Now look, like everybody else, I wanted to give Trudeau a chance. But what got me into this race was not the engineers alone. It was this moment. I've got a 20-year-old son in engineering here, right here in Canada at McGill. And I got a 24-year-old daughter, okay? I saw that document. You could time my entry into this race when that document came out of the Trudeau government that said we're going to run deficits under his leadership for the next 38 years, leaving this country $1.5 trillion in debt. There is no chance in hell I'm going to let him do that. That tells me, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to win this leadership race, and then I'm going to shine the light of transparency and accountability on Justin Trudeau and make his life a living hell for the next 2 years. 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 I can read a balance sheet. I can read an income statement. The key to this is to understand what that really means. Big numbers like that sometimes fly right over people's heads, but what it means to you and your children and their children is that money is borrowed. You have to pay interest on it. There's only 36 million Canadians. You have to pay your portion of that interest in perpetuity. Getting out of that much debt is next to impossible. So what happens is, what used to go to help you and your children on education, or on health care, or on social services, or the arts, that's now going to a foreign country to pay for interest. Trudeau doesn't understand that. He's never run a business. He's never read a balance sheet. Never read an income statement. Never had to deal with the challenge of making payroll on a Thursday. Doesn't understand the compassion of people that do want to pursue that or respect them for doing it. He's never done any of that. He was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Doesn't understand what it takes to do it on your own. When I got married, I had nothing. I've made every dime myself. I'm not a politician. I don't owe anybody anything. I ask a very simple question of all of you. How is it possible a country as rich in bounty as ours, we have everything everybody wants all around the world, and more than anybody has of all of it. We have the largest border on earth. Where is it written in the Canadian Constitution or on your passport where it says you have to suffer incompetence and mediocrity in government? Why? 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 Why don't we change it? Why don't we bring some executional excellence to the business of running our country? Why don't we look at other countries that have done the same thing? Look at Switzerland. There are no deficits in Switzerland. The people hire good managers to run their country so that it can provide all the things they want, and they don't take risks with debt because they set goals and they achieve them. The definition of leadership is to find great people and ask them to do extraordinary things for you. Now let's talk about Trudeau as a manager. He talked about diversity, 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 diversity. I applaud it. He never, ever once uttered the word competence. Competence. People all around the world, the body politic, Canada included, are going through a metamorphosis, a change. They're sick of getting bullshitted by politicians. Tired of it. Spinning crap all the time. Not telling the truth. The typical politician, Canadians included, certainly the Liberals, make 25 promises and deliver on 0 of them. That's why Justin's in trouble now. He promised you jobs. He absolutely screwed you. He promised you a deficit of $10 billion, which is huge, and then delivered 32. Screwed you again. How many times do you want to get screwed? This is just the beginning. Think about his caucus. Let's talk about an alarming issue for Canadians that just came on the scene in the last few weeks. Images of people crossing the border in Manitoba with children in the freezing cold across frozen rivers, walking into Canada. We don't know who they are. We don't know if they have any papers or not. We have a law. And it basically says if you come to a port of entry in this country, by car, by rail, by air, and you walk up to the officer and they ask you, have you applied for refugee status in the United States? And you say yes, we turn you back to finish the application. But because there's a loophole in the law, you can walk 15 feet past that border entry and walk across anywhere in the 49th parallel and walk into our country, even though we have no idea who you are, and go into our welfare system, our healthcare system, challenge us through 7 different trials at becoming a refugee, and if that fails, hire a lawyer and stay in the country for years at a cost to us per person of $500,000. I'm not cool with that. I am an immigrant. Many in here are also, or children from parents who immigrated here, all came through legally. They went through the process. There are thousands waiting to come into Canada, and yet we let people walk over the border and take their place instead? Not good. Now, there is a man that's working for Trudeau. Talk about team, talk about management, talk about building a country around good managers, good MPs. Ralph Goodale. Don't know Ralph, never met him. Listened to him for the first time last Saturday when Evan Solomon asked him, what are you going to do about this problem? Now, there must be some disease you catch if you stay in Ottawa too long as a politician, because he spoke for 8 minutes and said nothing. That's a disease. That's the kind of guy I would fire, because he doesn't have a solution to the problem. The whole concept here is, the plan is to find men and women that can run the country with one objective, just one. Not 25 promises here, one promise. I'm going to grow Canada at 3%. I'm going to triple its growth rate so you can get employed. And why would I do that? Canada doesn't work at 0.7% GDP growth. That fighting you saw between the provinces and the federal government in the last few weeks is because there's no money. It's not growing. Why isn't it growing? Because Trudeau has no idea how to run a business. He doesn't understand that overtaxing the country makes it uncompetitive and capital goes elsewhere, just like Shell. Took that money out, not coming back, going to invest it in a much more competitive place. The plan is to make Canada competitive. Whatever Trump does, people ask me, what's my tax policy? Wait 6 days. Let's see what Trump does on every metric and match everything, because we're going to compete with him. We have a wicked competitive advantage. He's destabilizing travel and immigration in the United States. Why don't we compete this way? Since I announced this leadership bid, I've had phone calls from all these American tech companies who know who I am, and it goes like this. Listen, Mr. O'Leary, you've probably got a 50-50 chance of running Canada in the next 24 months. How about this? Would you help us with this? Some of the best mathematicians on earth are from Syria, Iran, Iraq. Legendary Persian mathematicians now working in robotics, biotech, advanced in artificial intelligence. They won't come to our coding facilities in America anymore because they're worried about their wives and kids. How about this deal? We build a facility in Canada near a university. Could be this one. We then hire people that want to come and work for our company, starting salaries $80,000 up to $250,000 a year. But you got to give a passport to their wife or significant other and their children. Would you do that deal? And I said, let me think about that for 1 nanosecond. Yes, I would. I do it like that. Because think about India. Modi, we're competing with now. India's planning on growing at 7%. Wow. How's he doing it? Digital, baby. All digital. Every single industry is going to get digitized, including all the natural resources there. We're going to do the same thing. Coding, robotics, digitization. I want all those jobs in Canada. We've got to compete with those guys. We have to expand our horizons. Our agricultural resources. I was just in Saskatoon yesterday. New plan. Let's go to China. Let's sell lentils. We're the best growers of lentils in the world. Why haven't we opened it up yet? Why don't we get on board and start thinking about selling all around the world? My attitude is if a politician opens their mouth and doesn't create a job, they are wasting oxygen. That's basically how it works. You should really get motivated to get involved in politics now, because there are 14 days left for you to join this party for $15. Tell all your friends and family about it, and get involved in voting. It's not only a constitutional right, in my view, it's your obligation. You should care a lot about your future. The only way you can affect it is to actually get involved in changing it. Care a lot about this. Your families, yourself, your children, what you want to achieve in Canada. We've got to change this country to be competitive again, and you have to get all the things I got. You deserve the same opportunity I had, and you're not going to get it with old Justin. He doesn't get it. He's never run a business. I'm going to do something very, very special for him. I'm going to find his true calling for him, because it's not running Canada. 2019 will not be an election. It will be an exorcism. The plan is simple. I will go there. I will change all the damaging policies he's put in place. I will eliminate any carbon taxes immediately. I will get all of our corporate and personal taxes to be competitive with the U.S. Then I will do what I do every day. I will go to Mumbai, Shanghai, Hong Kong, Geneva, New York, and tell them in London too, Canada is open for business again. That's the plan. Two more thoughts for you. When Harper had his first majority mandate, the Conservative Party was 324,000 strong. Today it's under 100. It's 88,700. You got to get involved. You got to join the party. You got to be part of this change. We have not had a candidate in the Conservative Party in 20 years that could go to a college, university, or tech school and get people out like you're out here today. Tomorrow at Queen's, 900 students will be waiting. Laurier, 800. I'm talking to all of them. Why? Because Trudeau did something remarkable. He got you to vote for the first time. You are now the most powerful aspect of Canadian politics. People 18 to 35 years old will determine the leadership of the country for the next 20 years. You awoke, you're motivated, and now I'm going to go to every university campus across the country, and I'm going to tell them the truth about Justin Trudeau. Very simple. He screwed you. And I'm going to pull you all back into this party. While he's screwing up in Ottawa, I'm taking the base back in the Conservative Party, just to make sure you understand what the definition of this party, your party, is going to be. We will never legislate morality, ever, ever. I'm Irish Catholic. If you are pro-life, I understand you. My daughter is pro-choice. I understand her. There's room for everybody in this party. I don't care what your pursuit of happiness is. LGBTQI, I've got your back. Look at my office. All of those are represented with the people I work with. Why? Because they do great work. I even have the guy running O'Leary Ventures is a card-carrying liberal. The only intelligent liberal in the country works for me. This is about doing great things with a country that is remarkable. So much bounty, only 36 million people. We can really kick ass here. We just got to get in gear and focus on what matters. Whatever makes you happy, whatever your moral compass is, I am totally cool with it. I have your back, all right? Let's understand that. This party will never, ever, ever, ever want to deal with the compass that you pursue with your life. Whatever you want to do with your family, whoever you want to be happy with, I'm okay with it. This is about growing the country at 3% GDP growth. That's the focus of what I'm talking about. I want you to get a membership in the next 14 days and vote. Get everybody out you know to vote. Get on board this movement, because we're going to take this country back and make something happen for all of us that we've been missing now for a long time. We got to grow. We got to compete. We got to be proud of our country. That has to happen. Canada. It should be, when I'm finished with you in the next 4 years, the envy of the world. That's the plan. Are you on board?
Yes.
Now, before we all melt or internally, spontaneously combust in here because it's hot, I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. Yes, sir.
Mr. O'Leary, the one question I have is, although your plans for the economy is great, you have budget plans. However, you got to take into consideration that a lot of people, they don't really necessarily care what they understand the economy numbers. They simply want to do what is ethically correct. And what do you propose? How do you plan to attract those voters who are not interested in the economy, who are just saying, "Oh, Trudeau's letting Syrian refugees in. He's doing a great image for Canadians." How do you attract those votes?
Look, we're not going to change immigration. We're just going to be selective on who comes here to help us on our plan to grow the country. We don't need more dependence. We need more people working together. I'm not worried about those that aren't motivated by economic momentum. That doesn't matter, because what they care about, they want a social net. Not everybody's going to be fortunate in this country. We've always promised we take care of those that aren't. The way we do that is we have to grow at 3%. There's enough money to go around for healthcare, education, military protection, and the social net, and even the arts. Hey, listen, I love to support dance. I love to support the arts. Can't do it if you have no money. Got to grow the economy. So when you hear me talking about this, particularly for young people like you should be very worried about coming into an economy that's growing and provides for you and your families. But look, you're absolutely right. The social net we guarantee to everybody and have since the 40s in this country, it all works at between 2.5% and 5% GDP growth. All my life, that's how Canada's been growing. Bad times were 2, great times were 6. We're at 0.7. Trudeau has killed our country with all of these stupid policies. I mean, you got to wake up and smell the roses. There's no growth. And the way it manifests itself, you can't get a job, your parents can't get a wage increase, and we're fighting about money all the time. The hospital in Halifax, where I was campaigning a few weeks ago, you can't drink the water in it. And we're in Canada here. Think about that. Think about it. You're sitting in the hospital bed, you can't drink the water. That's not cool. We got to fix all that. But I'm aware of what you're talking about. But believe me, for you, I'm worried about the future and this economy. You got to think about that, man. It's a big deal. Yes, sir, right here.
I was wondering, what's your opinion on Gerald Butts?
Yeah. Gerald Butts has done a tremendous amount of damage in Canada because he was part of McGuinty's mandate here in Ontario. I believe out of the $308 billion that we're in deficit now, in debt in this province, one of the highest debt jurisdictions, $200 billion of it are on his head. He wasted a ton of money. Now that virus is now infected Ottawa. They took 13 people, including Butts, to Ottawa to work with Trudeau. And all of these insane policies of taxation and green tax and carbon tax, that's all Butts. I don't think Trudeau dreams this stuff up. Butts sits with a 60-watt bulb in the basement dreaming of what he can tax next. That's it. Got to get rid of him too. A lot of people don't know who he is. I'm impressed you know. I'm firing all of them. They're all. That's true. This one right there.
For all young aspiring entrepreneurs in Canada, what is the one piece of advice you could give us to get us on our feet?
I'm going to give you 3 pieces of advice. 3, okay? I'm going to give you 3 things you should learn. And the way I learned this was watching it happen in front of my eyes for over a decade. If you've ever wondered about the people that actually get financed on Dragon's Den or Shark Tank, there's 3 attributes that are common in every single pitch. It does not determine the outcome of the business. It determines the hardest part to get financed. 3 things. They're able to articulate the opportunity in 90 seconds or less, 100% of the time. The ability to communicate your vision of what your business is has to be done in 90 seconds or less. The majority of them do it in 60 seconds or less. A clear, crystal vision of what that is. I'll take a really ordinary example. I basically take cupcakes, put them in a jar, and ship them all around the world. I got it. I understand what you do. The second part, also important, takes longer, is you have to articulate why you're the right person or team to execute the business plan. What do you know? Did you work for a competitor? Did you try before and fail and learn from that experience? Do you understand what it takes to make it work because you come from a family that did it before? What is it about you with your idea, your vision, that is so attractive that you can actually execute the plan? When you get those 2 things together, and I've seen this happen hundreds of times, the room starts to sizzle. An entrepreneur with a vision that can communicate it, and secondly, has the skills to execute it, that's hot. All of a sudden, everyone wants to write a check. Now, here's number 3. Do not forget this one, because I've seen the air get sucked out of the room like that. You gotta know your numbers. If you don't know your numbers, and you've got through the first 2, you deserve to burn in hell in perpetuity. And I will put you there. That's the currency. By the way, I just defined leadership. That's what leadership is. Communication skills. That's it. Remember those three things. They will serve you well no matter what you pursue in life. Yes, sir, right there.
So you talk a lot about party identity and not allowing other people to define what a conservative is.
Yeah.
And we've heard a lot of the other people in the leadership race talk about what their vision of what a conservative is. So my question to you is, what makes you different than everybody else in the race, specifically Mr. Bernier, that you seem to be very close with?
Yes, that's a great question. So I consider myself a conservative expansionist because I believe the party has to grow its tent dramatically. The difference between Maxime and I is very simple. Max wants to push down a lot of responsibility to the provinces and how they manage their finances. I don't. I'll tell you why. What I've learned in the last 4 years is sometimes you get a black swan event, like Kathleen Wynne. Now, Kathleen Wynne needs a lot of adult supervision, so she doesn't know what she's doing. When I tell you that we're going to get a 3% growth mandate for this economy, every single leader of every province and every municipality has to get on board. If they don't get on board with me, I will be a federalist with them, which means, take for example Kathleen Wynne. She wants to impose a carbon tax on all of us here in Ontario. No problem. I'll deduct it from transfer payments. Gone. Just like that. Sue me. Try me. Watch how this works. I will not tolerate incompetence and mediocrity anywhere. That's my promise to you. I can't fire her. But listen, think of what I've done with her. 2 years ago, she was 46% in her approval ratings in this province. My first open letter to Kathleen. I've done 4. She's now at 13%. And I'm not finished. I can't fire her, but I can make damn sure she can't survive another election. That's the plan. Speak to the people directly. I have 4 million followers across all my platforms. Talk to them directly. The plan is to be a strong federalist. That's the difference between Max and I. I would never, ever, ever want this to happen where you get a Notley or a Wynne destroying the dream of a 3% growth mandate. I will do everything in my power to make sure that they behave properly. That's my point. Thank you. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you were talking about Shell a lot, and my question is, why is this sort of attitude to conform to Shell's needs and sort of lower the tax? Instead, why is the attitude to sort of go after and try and work with countries like the United States and have a sort of simultaneous vision on the carbon tax and make Shell conform to you, I mean, the way the environment's going?
Oh, there's 2 questions there. Let's talk about carbon tax, though, because I'm an environmental studies guy. And so I spend a lot of time looking at what the appropriate way to deal with emissions is. Here's why cap and trade doesn't work and why it's folly. Let's be very simple about it. We got 2 companies, okay? We got one that's rich, big balance sheet, been successful, has huge market share in whatever it does, 5 smokestacks, pumping out, spewing out emissions. None of us want that. Right beside it is a small innovative company with a single smokestack, can't afford anything because it's a startup. The large company doesn't ever have to stop polluting. It simply goes to its balance sheet, calls up its bank, borrows money, and buys carbon credits. What the hell is that? They keep spewing it out, they just buy carbon credits. The small guy right beside them says, I can't afford to buy carbon credits. I have to innovate with carbon sequestration technology or scrubbing technology or new technology that isn't as emissive in terms of emissions. And they innovate. Now, the only reason governments try and price carbon, and this is clearly the case in BC and now in Ontario, and it's something Trudeau's doing too, is to grab the cash for themselves. Better idea is to simply do what we did 42 years ago in the automotive industry. When we said to all of them, both governments, Canada and the United States, said, look guys, you're the #1 polluter here, and nobody likes what's going on. You give us targets over the next 30 years, decade by decade, what you can achieve, and we'll leave the money on your balance sheet. You create new jobs. That's where the catalytic converter came from, an old technology, but the first innovation that started to reduce emissions. The better plan is to simply go to each industry and say, okay, you mine uranium, you mine oil, you're in ag, whatever it is. You give me what you can do towards getting to the Paris Accord. 73% of us want that objective met. You tell me what you're going to do. Then you lock and load. You commit. I leave the cash on your balance sheet, and every year we watch what you do. But here's the benefit of that. Canada, many of you don't know this because you've never studied environmental studies. This is now a lecture. I'm going to tell you something. We have 1.2 billion acres of wetlands, farmland, and forest in this country. Depending on the cycle of forest fires here, We absorb in each one of those acres 2.1 to 2.6 tons of carbon per acre. We're a carbon sink nation. We basically absorb 3 to 4 times more than we emit. We're not the problem. Doesn't mean we don't want to meet our emission targets, but the point is we are not the problem. What we should be doing, we own some amazing carbon sequestration technology. We own it. Canadians own it. IP. Private, some of it's public. We own scrubbing technologies. Why wouldn't we take, maybe you, if this concerns you, you get a job, you work for me in an embassy in India or in China, and you sell, license, or gift that technology to those countries. It's Canadian. That's our gift to the world. Not just a gift, we may sell it. We create jobs, we provide new ways for them to reduce their emissions. They're responsible for 40% of it. We got to get those guys on board. This is the new way to take the Canadian brand way up, way up. Why isn't Trudeau doing that? He has no idea. That's why, no idea. But that's the plan for carbon emissions. Regarding taxes, we don't need the lowest taxes. We just need to compete. We just need to compete. You tell me what Trump's going to do, I want to compete. I want to compete. I want to wave the flag saying we are as good as anybody else, but wait, we're better. Because we don't care what your race or religion is. You're still a Canadian to us. That's what matters. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I think you're definitely on the right track with the economy and everything. I'm part of the party. I'm still deciding who I want to vote for.
Not anymore. You've decided.
It's based on this one question. Do you believe, what do you believe, the Canada-Israel type of relationship will look like?
I've always supported peace and a two-nation solution. Always, always. What happened in the UN was an embarrassment to that process. Big mistake for all of us. Look, we need peace there. We got to resolve Jerusalem. That's the last stepping stone, and then there'll be peace. We all want peace.
Yes.
Also, I want to trade more with Israel. They've got some amazing tech over there. I want to trade with India and Israel and China. They've got to be new partners with us. Technology in Israel right now, these are some of the best coders on earth. We got to do more deals with those guys. So we're all getting on a plane as soon as we get ourselves competitive, and we're going to say to everybody in Israel, we're open for business, let's do some deals.
Now I made my decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, yes sir, right there.
Mr. O'Leary, I hear a lot on 580 CFRA, you're on there a lot, and a big discussion about you is that you don't speak French. So, and I totally agree with everything you say about the economy and trade, and the only thing is, how are you going to win Quebec if you don't speak French?
It's a great question. I've immersed myself with a coach now, trying to get in an hour to 2 hours a day, but I'm not going to learn fluent French in 15 days before the membership vote's over. It's a commitment. We haven't had a modern prime minister that hasn't at least respected the language. I mean, Harper got a lot better during his mandate. I have to be able to debate Trudeau in 24 months in French, and that's just part of how this whole thing works. So, je suis le seul qui peut battre Justin Trudeau. And I'm getting my thing together. I'm working on it. Okay, let's hear it right here.
Hello, Mr. Wonderful. My name is Lynn. I was wondering if you could sign my book just in case that we don't.
I'll do it when this is over. We'll take a few pics and stuff, and I'll sign your book.
Thank you so much. That's so nice to meet you. Can I give you a handshake?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. That's great. All right behind, you sir, right there.
Hello, Mr. O'Leary.
Yes.
My dad said the most important thing he ever learned through school was his teaching degree because it gave him the ability to talk to an audience and know when people are understanding what he's saying.
Right.
With that being said, how are you going to be able to articulate your excellent ideas to the country so that people will actually vote for you?
Well, I'm in the process of doing that now. I have the largest social media base of all the candidates, but the whole key is here that we've had a real challenge in this party, and I've learned something crisscrossing the country. And if you're all conservatives here or want to become one, I want to explain one of the things we're going to fix. We have presidents of ridings, over 300 of them out there. They feel ignored by Ottawa, which is why the membership has collapsed. I got to bring them all back. I want to show them respect because some of these people have been in the party for decades. They feel disconnected to Ottawa. You know, we've got this attitude that if you're in Ottawa, you're in a special bubble or something. No, you're not. What has to happen is when I take over the leadership, one of the first things I'll do in the first 90 days is invite all the presidents of all the ridings into Ottawa and say, guys, Let's talk about our party. Let's talk about communicating our values to people. And let's understand how we're going to message together, because the party has been horrific at social media. Just terrible. I don't understand why, but it's not communicating with people. I don't have that problem. So I get to people on television, on radio, on every platform of social media, and I talk to them. It's important to have a debate. You don't always have to agree, but you got to talk. And that's what we're missing in this party. I'm going to change all that. We're going to change the dynamic of what conservatism means to Canadians, because my toughest critic is my 24-year-old daughter. She said to me, Dad, listen, I want you to know something. I didn't vote conservative in the last election. I voted for Justin Trudeau. And I heard you getting into this game. If you don't give me what I want, I'm not only not going to vote for you, I'm going to campaign against you. And why I care about Savannah is she's running all the social media for the Huffington Post. That's a problem. So I asked her, what is it you want? And she said, what matters to me a lot is I want to know that you have my back on all the rights that I now believe matter to my generation, LGBTQI, those are her friends. And I said, damn right, look at my office, come and meet the people that work with us. So I won her over on that. And I think you got to understand the party has to deal with the new reality. We respect everybody's views. We have to. But this is about, hear me on this thing, you know, when I was young, in our culture, because my mother was Lebanese, my father was Irish, the matriarch on the Lebanese side of the family would always prepare a Sunday meal. And Lebanese food is very hard to make. It takes a long time. She'd start at 5 in the morning, and it would be served every Sunday at 6:30. And if you didn't make dinner, you burned in hell, including your boyfriends, girlfriends, whoever's part of the family has to show up for the dinner. I didn't think much about it. But now it's ingrained in me. It's part of my way of living, my family values. Luckily, I can afford to gather our family wherever in the world we are. That's the freedom I talked about earlier about being an entrepreneur. But that cultural element is what the party has to understand, and it will under my leadership. That is what the definition of being a Canadian is all about. That has nothing to do about money. That's the freedom that we enjoy and makes our country unique. Yes, sir, back there.
One of the biggest things I think that's facing us specifically is the massive amount of debt going on with paying for college and stuff like that.
Right.
I think one of the big issues was we came to university without getting a education of finances.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I hear what you're asking. You're damn right about that. So at the age of 5 years old, I've written 3 books about this. They've all been bestsellers in Canada. You know, what's going to happen in school is we're going to do 2 things. We're going to teach financial literacy and also cultural and ethnic diversity. This isn't about religion. This is about understanding the tolerance you need. What makes a Lebanese different from an Irish, from an Italian, from a Hindu, from a Sikh. No one's born with hatred. They're just uneducated. And so we got to change that in our own culture. Financial literacy, 5 years old, you'll know what a credit card is in Canada when you're 5. You won't be able to use one, but you'll know what it is.
Last question.
Sure. I got to roll it up here. I'll do one more question. Yes, ma'am, right here.
I have a question for you, Mr. O'Leary. So Justin Trudeau recently negotiated a deal with Bombardier for $370 million without making them promise a single job to Canadians. Do you scrap that deal? And if you renegotiate it, how do you renegotiate it?
It's a great question. It also shows you what lack of skills he has in negotiating anything. So that deal is called a repayable loan. What loan isn't repayable? So the problem with Bombardier, for those of you who are in business, it has a dual voting class share, which is a very bad structure for shareholders. It has screwed shareholders for 20 years. Basically borrowing money, not changing its corporate governance, not guaranteeing any jobs, and wasting it. The stock has been a disaster for shareholders. What Bombardier wants is actually $2 billion. The reason they want that is that when they deal with a sovereign, like a foreign country, and the country wants to order 18 aircraft, they want to guarantee the company stays in business. They want the foreign entity. Brazilians do this too. There's other countries that do the same thing. If we want strong aerospace, we might consider it. But here's the kind of deal I would do with Bombardier. First of all, I'd say, okay, you want $2 billion? I'm going to send in the Caisse Depot, which is a private equity firm in Quebec, one of the best in the world, that does market-based deals. I'll send their team in to meet the management, look at the workflow, look at and assess how the company is structured, then come back to me, and we'll probably structure it this way. A third of it, $600 million in equity at a massive discount to where the share price is trading at. Number two, something called mezzanine debt, which is a higher interest rate for a shorter period of time, maybe 3 to 5 years, let's say 7 to 9%, another $600 million. And then another $600 million in long-term debt. And I will reserve the right for the Canadian people to get a piece of each of those without any restrictions on when they sell them. I will make money in investing in Bombardier because I will treat it like it's my own money. That's how I would actually do a deal with Bombardier, and I would erase the dual voting class share. And if they don't want to do that with me, they can go bankrupt first and restructure. They'll never get another voting class share. But we're going to stop getting screwed by any company. If we are bailing out companies because we want to keep jobs, we are going to make money. We are going to treat them as they are, broken, and we're going to take deals that are market-based. What I just described to you is a real private equity deal that I would price along with a private equity firm, and I would put one person on the board to keep an eye out for us as taxpayers. We would build up that aerospace ability. I've got other ideas for what to do with that as well, but the point is, it's a great last question. Here's what I'm promising all of you. No more stupid deals. That's it. Okay, guys, gotta wrap it up. Thank you very much for your time.